Here, let's play with these ones.
For Jordan Silvera and her kids, after months of sleeping in hotels, on couches, and in her car, stable housing at the House of Grace in San Jose was everything.
So this is actually the first apartment that me and my kids came and entered through.
Wow. You walked through this door and this was your first sort of refuge.
Yeah, it was just like, this is where we live. You know, it was very comforting.
But for her and more than 500,000 Americans, shelter is not enough.
They taught us life skills classes. We had financial literacy offered at the Career Center.
Because you need to pick up skills that you just hadn't had the chance to develop before.
Yeah, and I hadn't had a bank account since I was like still 19 years old.
The risk of becoming homeless in America has gone up for more than a decade, according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And the rising price of rent, coupled with inflation pressure, is not helping. Just a $100 increase in median rent was associated with a 9% increase in the estimated homelessness rate, according to a 2020 report by the U.S. Government Accountability Office. And that means this is not just a shelter problem. City Team, which runs this space, is one of several programs just in this county that literally trains people to stabilize their lives after being unhoused. At the height of the pandemic, we spoke with Maria Castaneda and her family living in city-built tiny homes after a period of homelessness.
There is a heater which keeps us warm, and there's AC too when it was hot, so it's a good thing. Our own bed, warm, so it was pretty good.
Even though it's small, but it's way better than where we were before.
County officials say Maria has since moved on to a rental property and a full-time job.
One of the things that's really impressive about this program is their permanency rate. People staying in housing after, a year is 70%.
County Supervisor Cindy Chavez says that while these 24 shelters and the services around them cost $1.5 million a year, that is nothing compared to the ongoing cost of homelessness.
What we know is that if they're unhoused, we spend almost $65,000 a year per person for them to be unhoused in our community.
Because that's what it costs in services to help them out.
Ambulances, being in custody, hospitals, mental health facilities.
This county alone has allocated $643 million toward 5,000 units of housing. But in a state that is short millions of units, where Governor Gavin Newsom campaigned on closing that gap, housing is not enough.
And the skills needed to survive while you're living in addiction or out on the streets are very different than the skills that are needed to survive while you're working.
And as House of Grace renovates this apartment complex to add 50 more units, the physical space has to be designed not just for families.
And so we're putting in bathtubs in a lot of the units.
But for recovery from the trauma of homelessness.
When women come from, domestic violence situations or even living in a shelter, it can actually be really intimidating to be all alone by yourself in a space.
More comforting somehow to be within arm's reach of your child while they sleep.
Exactly.
Today, Jordan works for City Team and her son attends school here. Like everyone we spoke to, she says without community, structure, and services, she would not have made it.
Especially when you've just been in that cycle of shame and guilt and depression and all of these things, feeling like a failure. It's hard to get that courage to kind of step into that and know that you're worthy of all those things, like a job and a good life, a car, all these things. I truly believe housing is a part of it, but I think it's so much more than that.